Welcome back to another episode of the podcast we call The Unknown. My name is Michael Volpe. I report from Chicago, Illinois. That's in Cook County, Illinois, and I write at michaelvolpe.substack.com. My podcast partner, as always, Richard Luthmann, reports from near Fort Myers, Florida, in Lee County, named after Robert Edward Lee, the general of the Army of Northern Virginia, but generally considered the general of the Confederates. The losers of the Civil War. And we are back for the 33rd episode. We had all kinds of stuff. We're going to start in France. I'm going to get the article up, but unless you've been under a rock, you heard that one of the leading presidential candidates in 2027, unless they call early elections, can't run. Marine Le Pen was convicted of some dubious crimes, and they have barred her for 5 years, which, given that it's 2025, means she can't run in 2027. Have you followed the story at all?
Yeah, I'm a little bit upset about this because number one, I like Marine Le Pen, and she's
That's
been an effective politician on the right in France. I think that she's been, and her father before her have been called Nazis for the last 40, 50 years, and I don't think that's true. But what it really it portends this trend of really lawfare, and it's like fascism with socialism. I don't know what to call it, but it's not democracy as we know it. It's where you use the legal system or the governmental system to target political enemies, and it used to be limited to African and South American very unstable democracies. Now it's come into Europe, it's come to the United States, it's in Canada, it's all over the place. I mean, it's becoming scary. It's a scary trend that we're seeing.
Right. Yeah. Vladimir Putin, when he's not killing his political opponents, jails them like Mikhail Godorkovsky and Alexei Navalny, who died in jail. And I think the guy in Romania, I think I got the country right, was also barred from running. So this seems to be a trend. I don't know the details of the case. The dubious part is that all of these alleged crimes happened about a decade ago. So that seems like lawfare. And you're right. You're removing your political opponents, not at the ballot box, but through the courts, which definitely seems wrong. She can appeal it. She's not going to be in jail. They're just going to make her a million times more popular. So this will play out. So we'll see what happens.
You think she's going to get a Trump effect, Mike? You think she'll get a Trump effect out of this?
I absolutely. When you do lawfare, you become a lot more sympathetic because you're taking on the system. By the way, the Trump effect. I don't know if it was a tweet or what she put out, but she said the deep state. She actually used the term deep state is after me. All right, so that's enough on Marine Le Pen. We have a segment where I find a negative article about one of Trump's appointees, not cabinet members, because there's only a limited number of those. And you defend that person blindly because that's how you are. And so I have, and let me see if I can find it. Here we go. All right. So this is an article about Steve Witkoff. The history of Trump's man to negotiate world peace should worry everyone. And Witkoff, he's a czar, and I'm trying to remember what czar he is, but he's involved in the negotiations with Putin. He's involved in negotiations with Hamas, possibly with Iran. He is a real estate developer, buddy of Trump. They play golf all the time. He has zero foreign policy experience. They go through the Independent makes this like it's really shady because Witkoff became buddies and business partners with a guy at Lehman before Lehman blew up. I think that's nonsense, but he has no foreign policy experience. And the way things are playing out in Russia and the Ukraine is showing it. Tell me why this guy is the right man for the job.
Well, if you look back at the past administration, what foreign policy experience did Jake Sullivan have before he became the NSA National Security Advisor? And even to a certain extent, what does Mike Waltz have as National Security Advisor beyond being a Green Beret? In deep level, does he have an advanced degree from the Kennedy School? Does he have an advanced in the School of International Public Affairs from Columbia. No, they don't. But what this guy's job is, and is a very specific job that the President of the United States has full confidence in him to do, to go and negotiate on his behalf and communicate his message. And that's where his technical skills lie. He's a great negotiator. In New York real estate, that is, the lion's den of negotiation. If you can go in there and you can negotiate, you can get out alive, and then you are a skilled negotiator. That's the thing. And that's where Trump has the confidence in Witkoff. That number one. Number two, the post that he has for him is for Middle East peace, East peace envoy, Steve Witkoff. And he has someone who's been committed to that cause for decades. So I think he's ultimately qualified for the role that Trump has him in.
Right. And things are going swimmingly in the Middle East. I interviewed Jake Sullivan in 2016. I think Sullivan had plenty of government experience. I don't know what his, and NSA is not foreign policy. As far as Waltz is concerned, I'd have to see what committees he was on. But if he was on the Intelligence Committee, that's partially where you get that kind of experience. But through your... I'm sorry.
He's a Green Beret. He was a special
Green Beret as well, but his experience in being in Congress is where you get some of that experience. This guy has zero foreign policy experience. I think it's playing out with the Great Fear. That's the Independent, by the way, from England, that had that article. I think the point is well taken, given the way that things are playing out. Now, I don't want to give the impression that I am anti-Trump, because I am against some of his policies. So I wanted to show you one of his policies that I think is working out very well, and then we're going to go back and show you some stuff that's not working out as well. And so, now this isn't the entirety of the Mexican border, but look at this graph. Right, hold on, where is it at? Oh, right here. This is amazing. So October of 2024, 24,000 border crossing contacts with an alleged illegal alien. And as you can see, they went up from 2022 to 2023, 2024, they were down slightly. But look at this. From 106,000 in the first full month under Trump, 11,709. That is an enormous decrease. This isn't the entirety of the Mexican border, and we talked about this before. Jay Johnson, when he was the DHS secretary under Obama, said he knew if he was going to have a good day or a bad day, whether or not he heard there was more or less than 1,000 border contacts with an alleged illegal alien, which means 30,000 a month is the magic number. And Trump is well under there. He has all but stopped the flow of illegal aliens crossing the Mexican border. Tell me how great he is.
Oh, Trump's great. Trump's the best. And the fact is that it started after November 5th. It
right,
started,
and it did. And you can see the numbers actually decrease right after the election. That's correct. Yeah.
Historically, I think even Jay Johnson under Obama would have been aghast about some of the numbers under Biden. That's the thing.
I think saying 1,000, if your number was 1,100 for the day, it says you take it relatively seriously. That he made that number 1,000. That if it was more than 1,000, he thought he was going to have a bad day. I think he took it relatively seriously. Certainly, he a lot more seriously than anything under Biden. And also Obama, for people who don't know, deported more people than any president in history, not only in terms of raw numbers, but per year. So Obama wasn't great on the border, but, compared to Biden, he was.
Obama deported people. Your favorite president, Bill Clinton, deported people. Right. The thing is that there's always been this. Bush was out of control in the sense that the borders, with the development of Homeland Security under him, and so it only happened really recently where this idea we have an open border. It was never something that was part of American policy.
Oh,
It was that was even implicit in voting for one party or the other about border security. I don't know, and it's kind of backfiring on the Democrats politically too, because the idea of bringing in Hispanic Americans, or naturalized Hispanic people over the past 30 or 40 years has kind of, in many ways, helped the Republican Party. You have a more conservative group there, a very Catholic group, a very oriented group. So the idea that you're bringing in these workers for seasonal crop picking and everything else, and they're going to naturalize and become Democrats, maybe for a generation, but now it's really starting to take the opposite direction. So,
all right, Clinton may have deported people, but Bush, Clinton, Bush Senior, they did not enforce the border with any kind of seriousness, not the way that that President Trump did from 2016 to 2017, 2021, and so far. No one has, except for maybe Dwight Eisenhower, on the border, the way Trump is. And he is showing that if you make a commitment to it, the border can be orderly, even though it's a very, very, very long border with Mexico. On the flip side, he is using the Aliens Enemies Act, and you love it, and I am not a fan. So first, we got a couple of things we're gonna talk about. So the first one, and let me find it. This is a New York Times article which goes through the so-called evidence that ICE was using to identify someone as being a part of this group right here. And then they would use this act, which means they didn't have to go in front of a judge. They could just throw them onto a plane, send them to El Salvador, and they wind up in prison. And what it says is the Trump administration has granted itself the authority to summarily deport Venezuelan migrants accused of being members of a violent street gang on the basis of little more than whether they have tattoos or have worn clothing associated with a criminal organization, new court papers show. And this includes, and I need to find him. No, I think I went too far. I think it's right here. Yeah, right here. This guy right here was accused of being, and he's a gay professional makeup artist who was accused of being a part of this group because he had tattoos that said "Love Mom." And now he is in this El Salvadorian prison. And I'm sure you're going to defend this policy regardless of how wrong-headed it is. So go ahead.
I wonder how lucrative the makeup hustle is in El Salvadorian prison in a male prison. That's number one. That's an aside. Look, the fact of the matter is this. The law enforcement and the Secretary of State has the ability to look at this stuff in the first instance, right? And that's and the idea that you have due process is for citizens. And
that's totally inaccurate. Due process is for everyone. It is for everyone. Are you saying that if an illegal alien is accused of murder, you can just send them to the gallows without a trial?
No. No. You could choose not to prosecute and deport them forever to a foreign prison under a treaty with another country. The fact is, the idea, the post-war amendments and the jurisprudence since then, even the Warren Court, this all predates that. This predates, and it's more primal to the structure of the Constitution than any of this stuff. You think that people get due process? You think some Chinese national in China gets due process because they
in China.
Anywhere in China that they did a transaction based in U.S. dollar currency, and so that they should get the protections of the law based on that? No, that's the attenuated argument you're making. Just because there's a U.S. hook, these people have to get due process. No, that's
right.
not.
No, they have to get.
You're equating jurisdiction with due process. The government may take jurisdiction over things, related to U.S. interests. But the government does not have to afford due process to individuals unless they're entitled to it. And these people aren't entitled.
Everyone on American soil is entitled to due process. That is one of the most un-American statements I have ever heard. This is the problem with using the Aliens Enemies Act, which is only supposed to be used under a declared war for this. Yes, it is. Because you are not affording these folks due process, so you send gay makeup artists to one of the toughest prisons in El Salvador, and he is not the only one mistakenly sent to El Salvador in one of the toughest prisons.
Somebody else, yeah.
This is one of my favorite Twitter accounts. That's Damon Toel. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. He calls himself a strip mall lawyer. I think he is downplaying his legal prowess. But this is another guy they sent to the El Salvadorian prison, and this is what he said. According to the complaint filed last week, ICE admitted at his removal hearing in August 2019 that all the evidence they had about his alleged gang membership was a single interview report from a single local cop based on a single confidential informant who accused him of being involved with a gang and was active on Long Island, even though this was in Maryland. And then he presents the court papers, and they tried to deport this guy once before, and they stopped it. And this is another guy who is in an El Salvadorian prison based on the word of his confidential informant. And once again, that is because he's using the Aliens Enemies Act rather than due process. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. You're saying that there has to be a declared war. Is that what your legal position is, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about the language in that statute that talks about a foreign incursion?
What
you just disregard that because it's inconvenient for your argument?
What does that mean? Foreign incursion?
Well, are you saying that?
Are you saying that Venezuela is purposely sending these guys here to cause havoc?
For years they were. For years they weren't.
Or they're just coming here.
Michael, we just had a segment where we just talked about the border numbers, how they were at a certain level and they went way up, and now they're down, and they went way up. And the finding was by the president and by the Secretary of State was that it was done because they were emptying their prisons, they were emptying their mental hospitals, and they were sending these people into our country as part of a foreign incursion. Those words,
so they're not doing that anymore. Because
they're not doing that, but you can enforce the results. Just because they're not they turn the spigot off the pipe doesn't mean the crap isn't everywhere and you don't have to clean it up. Come on.
All right. He's using an act that's only meant to be used in war.
Don't ignore the words of the Alien Enemies Act just because you don't like that second clause.
All right. It's only supposed to be meant, and it's only been used during a declared war. He is misusing it. The judge that you want impeached is almost entirely right, and we are seeing the results. You're sending gay makeup artists and people who some informant said one time was a gang member to one of the worst prisons in El Salvador, and you're fine with this. You don't care if all of these guys.
They're not entitled to the Warren Court's criminal law protections. I disagree with anyone who does believe that.
All right, they don't need criminal. They need a hearing where their lawyers get to present evidence.
You're talking about informants. You're talking about this. You're talking about that. It is the absolute unfettered and I believe unreviewable judgment of the Secretary of State that we're talking about here. That's what we're talking.
One person gets to decide if hundreds of people get sent to El Salvadorian prison.
And you're fine with that. Donald Trump, the president of the United States.
And you're fine if Donald Trump gets to just on his own decide if hundreds of people get sent with no judicial review.
I'm not fine with it. Millions upon millions of Americans were when they voted on November.
Right.
And that's who's fine with it.
All right. If you say so. All right. So we have an Elon Files segment. I didn't get it up, but we got a. First of all, let's start with this. I didn't get the results up, but we talked last week. There was a big Wisconsin Supreme Court race. The male is a clone of Antonin Scalia. the female, a Democrat, is a clone of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's probably not completely fair. She won pretty handily. He conceded. Elon gave a fair amount of money. Actually, I guess it's all relative. He really gave almost nothing compared to what he has. He pisses more than that. But be that as it may, he in February backed AfD in Germany. They basically came in at the exact same amount as they were polling before his endorsement. Now he's lost this race. Is his power fading? Is he not going to be able to be the global political power broker that he wants to be?
You have to understand Wisconsin and how it was, the last several presidential elections. It's been, by percentage points,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact is, it's generally a blue state. Wisconsin is generally, you got Milwaukee, and you got a lot of urban areas that's just the areas.
Right. She outperformed Kamala though. So I don't think that Elon's endorsement helped this guy at all in Wisconsin.
Lost by 10, right? He lost by 10 points. So
Right.
it wasn't, I don't think he was there in earnest. It's not like Elon was doing what he did in Pennsylvania for Trump, where he was there for a month and a half and hitting
Right.
everything down and everything else.
He was there for a while. He put a lot of money in, several million. Again, that's a drop in the bucket for him. Look, you compared what he's doing to Soros, and Soros, whether you like him or not, created a brilliant strategy to put in a bunch of his clones as DAs, or the equivalent of a DA, like the Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, and he put a bunch of them in. And Elon is losing now. If you're gonna do this, unless you're Chuck Panici, the subject of my first book, you're gonna lose. Chuck never lost. That's why I said that. Chuck was just a brilliant campaigner and political guy, so he never lost. But so you're going to lose. But he tried to pump up AfD. They didn't really get any help from him. He tried to pump up this guy. Is he losing his cachet on? And at the same time, Tesla's stock is down. Their revenue is down. They're going through problems. Is his cachet down?
I don't think so. If this is anything, it's a hiccup. And frankly, we expect this hiccup though, because they were riding so high. They got with the win in November and everything else, and now it's the point where the rubber hits the road, and you have to invest yourself into all sorts of different areas to bring your to get everything moving. Doge is a perfect example of this. That it's going to take some time to get to his plan to take hold and take effect. He'll take a short-term hit, but I think he'll be good in the long term. That goes for Tesla too. Tesla has strong fundamentals. It's a great buy, I think. So I think he's going fine. He's got to just steer the short-term storm. That's all.
The PE on Tesla is huge, considering that their revenues and earnings aren't increasing the way they need to be. But any entrepreneur, anybody who operates at this level, goes through a lot of trying times. This isn't the first time for him. He's always overcome before. So don't underestimate Elon. Now, it's about a week old, but you and I both watched the Brett Baer interview with Elon and the rest of the top of the team at Doji, the Department of Government Efficiencies. Your thoughts on the interview?
I love Brett Baer's hair. That's number one. He's got the greatest hair on television. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a good interview in the sense that it shows the depth of people. You said this yesterday when we were talking about how he went into his Rolodex, I think, and picked up the best and brightest that he saw. And you gotta think, you probably ask 10 people, maybe one or two say yes, because it's a thankless job. And these guys could be making untold millions doing their software programming and everything else. But they're coming in and they're doing this because they want to do this. But I said this before. I said the biggest thing that I was disappointed about with the interview is that there was no big balls. I wanted to.
What do you mean by that?
20-year-old big balls. The guy who attacked the 20-year-old. I think he was an autistic guy as well. With his social media handle was big balls. So he's become like a bit of a sensation,
Right,
you know, on the internet and on social media and on X.
right.
His reports on what's happening with Doge. I wanted to see him there, but obviously, I think that Elon kept it buttoned up and he brought the high level people and he kept it very
Mhm.
professional. And I think that he's doing a good job. It's a testament to what he's doing as an efficiency consultant. If you're a big business and you wanted an efficiency consultant and you wanted to come in to do a presentation, the Brett Baer interview, I think, was what you would have when they came to
Yeah.
your office and tried to present to you what's been happening over the past couple of
All right. So what you meant about him going through his Rolodex is he brought in like the Silicon Valley types. These are all tech guys, engineers. One was a rocket scientist, at least a former rocket scientist, executives, COOs, CTOs, CIOs, and that's who he brought in. I like that. I think shake up the government with the private sector, but not only the private sector, but successful guys, tech guys. I like that. This was the softest softball interview I've ever seen Brett Baer do. If you're making a presentation, I agree that that is a good presentation. However, this wasn't a presentation. Brett played some of the criticisms. He didn't really criticize him. He would ask a question. They would talk for 3, 4 minutes. He didn't challenge him at all. Brett is he's got a good interview style because he can confront you, but he's never confront. He's not yelling at you. He never does that. But this was I ask you a question, you go on for 5, 10 minutes, however long you want, and then I ask you another question. So this wasn't, in my opinion, Brett's favorite hour or top hour, but he's done many interviews in his life. The the part that I remember is that he said that the government would fail an audit, and he went through it because they don't have all of the appropriate mechanisms in place when they give out money. There are no checks and balances the way that a publicly traded company would need checks and balances. And so that's some of the shocking part. Some of the other stuff, he made dubious claims when he claimed that the online survey cost $1 billion. That was at the National Park Service, which has $3 billion budget. I doubt that survey took a third of the budget, and this is where Brett should have challenged. But I think he made some dubious claims. Obviously, I read one article that this was necessary because the image of them coming in with like a bulldozer and just running through the employees and chopping them up, that they needed to counter that this is not what they're doing, that it's a scalpel. And they did counter that. But, to me, it was somewhat propagandist because Brett wasn't challenging any of the assertions they were making. But it was a pretty good interview. On the flip side, I was scrolling through Twitter the other day, and an episode of Maury Povich popped up. This is just amazing. Laura Loomer, one of my least favorite Twitter accounts, unlike Damon Toel, I like Damon's account. She's annoying, but gold digger and professional gaslighter Ashley St. Clair was caught on camera outside. She wasn't caught on camera. She brought the cameras outside her ritzy Manhattan condo, paid for by her sugar daddy, Elon Musk, selling her $100,000 Tesla she said was gifted to her by Elon Musk during their romantic relationship. She said she's selling it to make up for 100,000 alleged cuts to her child support from Elon. She took a jab at Elon, telling people to check the Tesla stock, adding, "I'm not the only one cleaning up after Elon's messes." Ashley, as I reported, has hired anti-Trump lawyers to sue Elon Musk. He was ordered by the court to take a paternity test. And Elon responds, and this is just a shameful response by Elon. "I don't know if the child is mine or not, but I'm not against finding out. No court order is needed. Despite not knowing for sure, I have given Ashley $2.5 million, approximately what he gave to the Wisconsin race, and I'm sending her $500,000 a year." What are you suggesting, Elon? That Ashley's a whore, a two-timer? What do you mean? I'm not sure. It could be your child, right? Because you did have sex with her, but you're suggesting she may have had sex with other people. Is that what you're saying? Also, Elon, your son or daughter is 6 or 7 months old. You need that court order, Elon, because if you didn't, you would have done the DNA test a long time ago. But anyway, his whole entire private life is playing out. He's got 14 kids. He's seen this child 3 times. She's taken him to court. And I've gone through this process myself. Before she can get to the custody part, they have to prove that he is the father because they are unmarried. And that is why they have ordered a DNA test. And a smart guy like Elon, who I'm sure can consult with some lawyers, was probably told that. So this is not that she is demanding you take a DNA test. She is trying to set custody terms, and she can't until they prove you're the father. And that dig about, I'm not sure if I'm the father, I don't know what you're suggesting except that she's a whore. Your thoughts about Elon's private life? Do you still think he should go out and be stud?
I love it. I love it. You know what? If I'm the judge, I sit there and say, Elon, I'm not even going to have you do a paternity test. You are the father. You've been spreading your seed all over the place, like you're an industrial agriculturalist.
I haven't looked at it in New York, in North Carolina, where I took one. It's required. I'm assuming that the law in New York is similar because they are unmarried. So the judge cannot do that unless they're just blatantly violating the law.
Oh,
You have to
get a paternity. He's going to get a paternity.
Right. But look, this idea, I'm not against taking a paternity. No, you're against it, Elon. All right. It was $520 for me. I didn't like paying it, but I could eat and sleep and have roof over my head despite paying it. You can afford the $500. All right. It's not hard. You have a private jet. And I'm sure wherever the DNA test, it's near wherever you live. The whole thing is opportunity, just ridiculous what he did there.
I think the part of the whole thing, though, is that this was an impromptu discovery of her selling her Tesla.
Right. And look,
the media just happened to show up.
Right. No, of course she called him. Look, is she a gold digger? Maybe. You know what? Maybe you should have thought of that.
This is the greatest lottery ticket that you can get.
Yeah. Look, you and I have both done a lot of custody. It's not as good as you think to get pregnant by a rich person. You don't know what's going to happen once they get it to court. So maybe that's what she was thinking. And if that's what she was thinking, she may be in for a very rude awakening. He may try to get custody of the child so he doesn't have to pay her. But I think he is paying her to get rid of her. And you got a newborn that's probably going to spend very little time with that newborn's father because this guy likes to get women pregnant. He just doesn't like to take care of the child besides financially.
Well, think about it. If you're from her perspective, you basically, have a child now that has the genetics of one of the great minds of our generation, maybe of in modern human history. So I think she's done good there for her kid. Her kid's going to probably do very well from that perspective, and I think the kid's going to get taken care of financially. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's the greatest situation for being raised and spending time with the biological father, but it is what it is at this point. You have a kid, the kid's being cared for, and as long as that happens, I think that that should be fine. I think that the tabloid value of this is going to be very high. We're going to hear a lot about this. It's a soap opera saga. But I want to go back to the point about Laura Loomer. You may not like Laura Loomer, but I think she's extremely effective as a journalist, even though she's got her job now as doing what she's doing. But she's she's extremely effective. What she said, I think, didn't she say a few weeks ago about Boatsberg's daughter? Was she the one that said about Boatsberg's daughter?
She may have. I'm not sure that's a conflict of interest. She says a lot of things. Some of them are correct. Some of them are not. She's extremely inflammatory. She knows how to get attention. It helps her because she gets a lot of attention. And now that Elon has brought everyone back, because she was canceled by pretty much everyone for a while, she can generate attention. It doesn't necessarily help Trump because she goes, she went after Marjorie Taylor Greene a little while ago, other Republicans, and she said, she suggests that I think Casey DeSantis made up her cancer. She says all kinds of stuff. Laura Loomer to me is a very distasteful individual.
She throws bombs, but
she throws bombs. Yeah, no, and some of them are correct. A lot of them are not. Anything else you wanted to add on Laura, current events, Elon? Do you want to see him have a 15th child? He's had two in the last 7 months.
I want to see him spread his seed. I want him to
Uh,
go multiply little Elons everywhere.
all
Whatever.
right.